You have such an incredible mindset about life and about persistence and pushing forward. How do you like if you were to have a conversation with somebody that's out there and they said, I'm a small entrepreneur, I'm a small business owner, and I'm trying to have success. I want to get to that next level. I'm trying to, do all these things and raise a family and work, little side hustles and trying to do the best job that I can. And just things are not happening for me fast enough. What's the conversation that you have with somebody like that when it comes to getting to that next level?
Daniel, I do a lot of mentoring. Okay, I do a lot of business high level mentoring, and I have those conversations very often. The reality is that many of us live in a state of survival. That's the first thing we need to remember. Okay, and in order for us to be able to see our life with clarity and possibilities, we need to exit that state. Okay, we need to become present and available here and in the now. We need to stop time traveling between the conscious and subconscious. We need to operate from a single state of consciousness. How do we do that? That's the $1,000,000 question, right? How do we do that? Because what happens is we're all preoccupied with paying the rent, paying the mortgage, paying for the car, sending our kids to school, keeping food in the refrigerator. I saw my parents do that every single day for many, many years. And their troubles became my troubles. Okay. Their issues became my trauma. Okay. Their problems became my trauma. They're all I heard about the lack of money, the mindset, scarcity mindset, all of that became my own detrimental isms that I call them. Okay, they became my isms. They were the things that even when I achieved incredible financial success, I still felt poor. I still felt broken. I still felt like I wasn't enough. I still have fear and insecurity. I felt like an imposter, like I didn't belong to my wealth. I felt like somebody was soon going to discover how dumb I was or how smart I wasn't. Okay, because I had carried all that trauma with me. So the first thing we need to do is to shed that trauma. And really, I truly believe the 5 pillars to an abundant life is a true proven system that I have applied to many of the people that I coach and teach. Okay, and is basically a series of actions. Okay, that become disciplines. Okay, that becomes rituals and ultimately become a lifestyle. Okay, you cannot accomplish anything that becomes a task. You cannot accomplish anything that you have to be another to-do list in your book. Okay, in your list of 150 something plus that you have, you can't. It has to become a lifestyle. It has to become something that you do innately. What does my average morning look like? I can tell you what my average morning looks like every day because it's my lifestyle. I get up, I go for a run. Okay, I pray during my run. I go work out. After I work out, I jump in the sauna. I meditate in the sauna for 20 minutes. Okay, I get back home. Before I do anything else, answer phone calls, do anything else. Okay, I go and I journal, I write, and I read. Okay, so what am I doing during that period of time? Okay, is I am feeding my mind, my soul, my body, my spirit. So I'm addressing the 5 pillars of my life each and every single day. Okay. So, and somebody's going to tell you, well, I don't have enough time. Well, let me tell you something. Successful people don't have any more time than you do. They manage themselves better. You can't manage time. I can't.
Well, somebody might say, like, hey, look, Peter, seriously, man, I got to get up in the morning. I got to take the kids to school. I got to, get on this and this, I got all these things I got to do. There's no way. I don't have time to do that. I don't have time to do that. So what's the answer? I mean, how do they overcome the fact that, they'd have to get up at, to do all the stuff that you're talking about, they'd have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning every day. I mean, is that the answer?
No, that's not the answer.
Okay.
That really is not the answer, Daniel.
Okay.
Each circumstances, each individual is completely different, right? Because every individual has their own obligations, their own financial commitments, their own, their children that they have to tend to get to school to pick up, their jobs, whatever it is. Typically when I began my process work with someone, the first thing we do is we write their story. We write their story. I have them journal their story. Okay. What is a story that they see that they are telling themselves? Okay. Is a story that they're telling themselves, is that a victim or a victor? Okay. Is a story that they're telling themselves is that the world has been bad to them? Is a story that they're telling themselves that everything is impossible? So we have to change that mindset. It doesn't matter who you are. It does not matter who you are. There's always possibilities. The reality is that when you and I start having a conversation like this, and you say, what happens to this individual? What happens to this other individual? Very early on, I'm not ignoring your question. I'm giving you a very broad answer because there's not a straight answer to your question, okay? Very early on, when I started having people like John Asraf on my podcast, like Dan Fleshman on my podcast, people like Dean Graciosi, and I would ask them the same questions. Well, what about this person? What about the circumstances? And everybody said, it's all mindset, and you can do it, and you got to do this, and you got to do that. The reality is that there are certain communities that are at disadvantage. Okay, they are at a disadvantage. It is going to be very impossible for somebody that has not had educational pedigree, okay, to come out and read a course and become successful overnight. What do I mean by that? Okay, you see someone like Gary Vee talking about, well, he doesn't do it as often, but he used to talk about, they would denounce the need to go to college, the need to get a formal education. I completely disagree when it comes to certain communities, okay? There's a lot of communities that can denounce today to go or not go to college. That is a complete choice. It's not going to affect their level of success. But you know what communities are those? The communities that have had an educational pedigree, parents that are educated, parents that have created a foundation to be able to raise your IQ, to be able to raise your emotional intelligence, to be able to give you an edge in life above everybody else's. Okay, that is not going to happen in a lot of Latino communities. That is not going to happen in a lot of African American communities. It's just not going to happen because we don't come from that pedigree. Okay, I said it early on in my conversation. My father had a 3rd grade education. My mother had a 6th grade education. I was fucking doomed to be dumb. And that's not being disrespectful to my father or my mother. That's just a reality. Had I not chosen to educate myself, okay, to be willing to break the cycle of dysfunction and ignorance and illiteracy, so my son will not continue with that chain, that anchor of dysfunction, that anchor of misery, that anchor of brokenness, that anchor of fear and insecurity and imposter syndrome. I would have perpetuated the cycle that multi-generations began for all of us. So to answer your question in a more direct way, one of us is going to break the cycle, okay? It is going to take many of us to break the generational cycle, but we also do have a generational opportunity today when education, information has been digitized, okay, demonetized and democratized, meaning that every single one of us has an opportunity to become educated at some level, at whatever level that is. What happens is there's still a tug of war between our households with what works and what doesn't work, okay? Because if I'm going to talk to Mr. and Mrs. Gonzalez or Mr. and Mrs. Jones, and Mr. and Mrs. Jones and Mr. and Mrs. Gonzalez have been working a blue-collar job, 8 to 5, working their ass off for the past 40 years, it's going to be very difficult for them to understand that certain things need to change in society for their children to have a better life. And their grandchildren and their grandchildren, children have a better life. But somebody has to break the cycle. It's not a yes and no answer. It's not an easy solution. It's a generational opportunity that we have today with the amounts of information available to all of us.
Thank you for watching our short clips on Alonzo Academy. If you'd like to watch the next short clip, click here. If you'd like to watch the entire podcast, click here.